hopefully. All right, Madam President, it's all yours.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, we're going to call this special open and executive sessions to order 6:30 p.m. June 3rd, 2021. Can I get an approval of the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Francis. Thank you, Rachel. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, we have study items, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Jameson for the new superintendent entry plan by HYA and Dr. Jameson.
All right. Get my sharing going. Let's see how this works for me today. Good evening, everyone. I'm excited to be here. And before I begin, I just wanted to take a moment to first recognize that it is Pride Month and encourage our community to learn more about the experiences of our LGBTQ community and to embrace the differences that we all have. And I would also like to take this moment to thank the Board of Education again for allowing me an opportunity to serve the MRH community, and it's not a charge that I take lightly. I also want to publicly thank Ms. Meacham, as well as our administrative team, teachers, support staff, and anyone else who has had a hand in ensuring the successful return of students to our school communities and ensuring that learning continued this year. This evening, I come before you to provide a high-level overview of the superintendent's entry plan, which has been provided to you previously for review. From the presentation tonight, it is my aim to clearly show how this plan lays the foundation for a successful transition into the district with the focus on listening and learning, planning, and then ultimately leading the plan that will be developed at the end of this process. While this plan focuses on the first 90 days, it should be noted that some of the activities will extend beyond the initial 90 days. And then upon approval of the superintendent's entry plan, my hope is to have the document posted in full transparency and accountability for our stakeholder access. So the purpose of this entry plan for me is to create an intentional and inclusive process for my transition into MRH as the new superintendent. I recognize the importance of my network and mentorship, and I've intentionally identified several mentors who are able to help me with the expertise and the superintendency, as well as support with any finance questions that I might have along the way. I've also intentionally identified and participated in professional development opportunities that I feel will help bridge the gap as I transition into this new role. From this, I am hoping that I'm able to engage in a process that's designed to create ideas for sustaining and building on the work that the district is currently embarking upon. As I review the plan with you, I will outline the specific goals, the objectives, some of the activities that will be utilized to develop a deep understanding of the strengths of our MRH community and opportunities that are facing our community. The goal is to ultimately authentically engage our stakeholders and to utilize the data collected to inform and lay the foundation for the development of our district's strategic plan. So starting with the entry plan. So the entry plan is divided into 3 phases. Each of these phases are intended to inform the work over the course of the year. So phase 1, which is focused on listening and learning, is intended to listen for our district story, whether that be individually or collectively. This includes listening for our stakeholders' shared purposes, their goals, their visions, their fears, and also their hopes. Put simply, during this time, I am listening and learning about their fears and hopes. And in this phase, I will engage in one-on-one meetings, town halls, community and school events, just to name a few. The beauty in my selection early on is that I have already had an opportunity to begin part of this process and have immersed myself into the fabric of our school community. The second phase of the entry plan is what I'm calling the planning phase, which includes the team collectively analyzing the data collected, identifying themes, and then prioritizing any strengths and opportunities that may surface along the way as we begin to transition into the last phase of the plan, which is focused on reporting findings and leading the work necessary to begin the strategic planning process. And this is aimed at really improving the student outcomes for our students and supporting our staff, as well as looking at the efficiency of our organization. So this slide is where I will spend the bulk of my time really highlighting the major goals of the plan. And so the entry plan has 5 distinct goal areas with objectives to accompany each of the goals. So while I have not listed all of the activities individually detailed in this presentation, I will highlight several of those critical activities that are associated with each goal. It should be noted that there is an intersection of equity throughout, and then frequently you hear equity being talked about in isolation, but for me, it's the intersectionality, and that will become very visible as I go through and discuss each of these goals. So the first goal is focused on board governance and relationships. So the aim here is for me to establish a collaborative, positive relationship with the board, not only individually, but collectively, to ensure that we have cohesive governance, and then also that we have a shared moral purpose. So this particular goal has 3 objectives, and those objectives really are focusing on the goal of governance, and then the focus of academic and social emotional success of all of our students. And this was an area that was actually highlighted in some of the work that HYA completed in the superintendency search. The other objective that is listed is to develop and implement expectations for communication. And for me, this is how does each individual board member like to be communicated with? And then also what conduits will be used to communicate with the board collectively. And then the last objective for this particular goal area is to understand from the vantage point of each of our board members, their focus, the actions, and any direction that they want to see have happen as I begin the work and transition in. And so some of the activities that I would like to highlight for this particular goal area, which is part of the presentation today, which is presenting the entry plan to the Board of Education for review and also feedback. Other activities which have already begun include individually meeting with each board member, connecting with each board member, and then establishing regular communication and protocols and procedures. And I'll talk a little bit about this at the back end of the presentation, but that's part of what we will discuss today. And then the other piece is to partner with the board president to plan a board retreat. And again, this is all around relationship building, norming, and identifying protocols for us to operate under for this upcoming school year. The second goal that I want to highlight here is the focus on understanding our school community, our district, and then building relationships along the way with both internal and external stakeholders through what I'm calling this listening and learning tour. And so again, this has already begun. I have met one-on-one with staff members. I've had chew-in chats with the support staff in the admin building, as well as met with principals, directors, and had town hall meetings with parents as well. And so some additional activities will go along with that. So here, the objectives are to collaborate, to develop relationships with the community. And the biggest piece is to develop my understanding and my knowledge regarding the culture and traditions of the district. So again, I've started early enough that I've been able to immerse myself and learn more about the district and some of the traditions that we currently have, like the senior walk, which was nice to be introduced to. And then the last piece is to create a communication plan with all stakeholders. And this is especially critical for garnering parents' input around not only how they would like to be communicated with, but also the focus of the information that they receive. And so information will be coming out for all of our stakeholder groups as we think about how to develop this communication plan. Again, some of the activities I've mentioned before, looking at the hopes and fears of all of our stakeholder groups, conducting town hall meetings. And then the most critical piece is immersing myself in the school community. So visiting our schools, attending school functions. So I've had an opportunity to actually participate in the thespian induction. I've attended a baseball game, and I also attended the 8th grade promotion ceremony for our middle school learners. So I've been pretty busy along the way as I've been moving through and making my transition into the district. Goal 3 for me is the most critical, as it's actually focused on the instructional practices, the initiatives, and our equity efforts in the district, again, associated with the academic and social emotional success of our students. And so this goal area has the most objectives out of all of the goal areas that will be presented to you tonight. And so the primary focus here is to address the learning loss and also some of the challenges from a social and emotional standpoint as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so we want to develop a responsive plan that will address those needs for those students. And then also looking at our current strategies, strengths, and opportunities for those aforementioned pre-identified areas. And as a part of that addressing of the learning loss, we also need to assess and monitor our student interventions utilized to support students and staff professional development opportunities, because we know when staff have the tools in their toolbox to be successful, our students also will have additional supports as well. And then looking at and understanding the alignment of our curricular components, standards, assessment, and any professional development that actually supports that. And then again, as stated earlier, looking at equity as it intersects throughout this whole plan, but really auditing our district efforts and then looking at what next steps need to occur as we move forward. So some of those high-level activities associated with Goal 3 include reviewing curriculum materials and district data across all areas, reviewing the intersections of the interventions that are used, not only on the academic side of the house, but also on the student support services side, and identifying what supports students need as we move into the new year to address some of the challenges that surface as a result of the pandemic. And then the third high-level activity that I want to highlight is really utilizing existing structures to engage stakeholders to identify best practices to respond to the unfinished learning as a result of the pandemic. And so again, Goal 3 is focused on understanding those practices, the programs, but also drilling down to how do we best support our students and address the trauma that they may have experienced, which includes the social emotional learning piece and also the academic components. Goal 4, here you can see that it focuses on ensuring that we maintain the organizational and physical health of our district. It has 3 objectives, so not as many as the previous goal area, but here it's about me bettering my understanding and my knowledge of the district's budget process and the development process. And so the activity that's been identified for this particular objective includes Mr. Holzer providing to me the district's historical budgets, which he's already provided to me. And that has allowed me an opportunity to dig in and begin to note any questions that I may have. And then also that may require further explanation. And then the other part of that is scheduling time with him to sit down and do a line by line item review of department budgets as well as school budgets to see the alignment to district foci. Also, part of this goal includes reviewing the organizational systems and structures within the district. And one of the activities associated with this particular objective includes reviewing our hiring process and our plan for diversifying our teaching corps. So as I talked about equity, our hiring practices are associated and tied to that too. So that's that intersectionality piece that I addressed previously. And then the last objective for Goal 4 includes increasing my knowledge of capital improvement. And so because I'm new to the superintendency as well as the capital bond project, this activity would include reviewing and meeting with weekly our project manager and the architect to learn more about the work that's being done and to become a part of the decision-making process. And so that will start immediately once I begin and transition into my role. The last goal that we'll be focused on here is around the data that's being collected after we implement the entry plan. And so from here, we're going to review themes that surface and begin the planning process for the strategic plan. And so this goal has two objectives. The first is, again, using the lens of equity to develop a strategic plan reflective of refinement efforts for the district. So based on all of the data that's been collected, all of the conversations had, documents reviewed, what do we need to do to move forward to support students in a manner that will propel us into what we will hope to call Maplewood Richmond Heights 3.0? The other piece associated with this goal includes developing a process that focuses on continuous improvement for students and staff, and really defining how we look at data to support those marginalized groups or groups who typically don't experience success, which would be our students who receive support from special school district, as well as our free and reduced lunch students. And so a few of the activities included here would be summarizing and reporting the findings to the Board of Education, in addition to all of our stakeholders, and collaborating to determine the strategic planning process goals, actions, and timelines, and any other items associated with that process. And then the other aspect of that would be to maintain visibility within our community. So as we begin to think about the work that needs to be done, in order for me to continue to build relationships, I have to be visible. So I'm all about collecting data and providing updates to the board and also our community. So this is an accountability piece for me. So part of this entry plan will include milestones, and this is just an example of what this would look like. And so if you see here, I use the goal number 1, which is associated with the board, and I've identified 3 of the objectives that are listed and model what it would look like if it were completed. So for example, develop and share the superintendent's entry plan. I put a check mark because that would be completed. That's being done today. And then the other piece would be around meeting with all school board members individually to get to know them. And I said that's still in progress. And then the last one that I listed as an example includes establishing regular communication protocols and procedures, not initiated because we are not there yet. So again, this is a high-level overview. I welcome any questions that you may have or any feedback. I know that this is not the final aspect of the process for the development of the entry plan, and I am sure that I have missed some pieces, but if there are any items that you believe that need to be considered that I have not yet considered, I'm open to those questions as well at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Jamison. I just want to say really quick before any questions, I really appreciate this high-level overview. I'm sure we all had a chance to read what you sent us, which was very comprehensive, and I appreciate it. But then getting the high-level overview is really helpful, at least for me. Does anyone have any questions?
I don't have a question. I just want to chime in here and first, thank you, Dr. Jamison, for that. That was wonderful. And I appreciate the high level, but also thanks John and Max for their support of Bonita during this process and for the support of the board as we've kind of they've shepherded us along to this point. So much thanks to our HYA folks.
Thank you, Maria.
Agreed. I would just chime in. Good. This is a really great plan, and having been in the weeds a little bit of some of the detail of some of these groups, I think this is a great high level overview of everything, but also just assuring everybody else on the board that there is a lot of meat underneath each of these general topics, and there's a lot of things that have been thought through at a granular level. And I'm just really thankful to Dr. Jamison, my colleagues here on the board, HYA, for us having really powered through a very difficult time during the pandemic and actually gotten Dr. Jamison on board when we did and sticking to our deadlines. And because the pre-work that Bonita has really thrown herself into over the last few months, I think has been extraordinary and is going to be extraordinarily helpful as we kind of kick things off here later this summer officially. It's been really exciting to have Dr. Jameson really get herself prepped as much as she's had and given her the runway to do that. I'm sure there's still a lot of overwhelming things, but a lot of pre-work has been done, and I'm really excited to see that.
Okay, well, there's some stuff that we need to discuss in exec session. So if no one else has any questions or comments, Dr. Jameson, did you have something you needed to say?
I just wanted to thank everyone again for the opportunity to serve. I have had an opportunity to meet some of our students and hear about their aspirations and desires to become math teachers in the district where they attended. So it has been a wonderful opportunity, and I'm looking forward to the parade on Sunday. So stay tuned.
Do I have a motion?
Is this for executive session to move into?
Yes.
Okay. I move to enter executive session in accordance with section 610.021, subsections 3, 9, 13, and section 610.022 of the revised statutes of Missouri on June 3rd, 2021 for the following specific reasons: personnel matters.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Francis. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Sorry, my voice is leaving. All right, see you guys in exec sesh.
Okay, Brandy, don't forget to text Chris. Okay,
I will text him right now. Thanks.
thank you. See you guys.